What keeps you awake at night?
Sea levels are rising globally.
Fears fueled by horror stories.
Among the worst flu season in a decade, and it hasn't peaked yet.
We all know the atomic bomb is very dangerous.
Another series of deadly terror attacks.
Because you know that thing your brain does in the middle of the night? This crazy thing where it takes a small problem and it just makes it enormous?
I'm so tired, Olivia.
Yeah.
It's like, we've crossed into a manic tired, I think.
Yeah.
Where, like, you know, you have the tired where you're dragging yourself through the day, and now I'm just mad about it. It's not that I'm not getting enough sleep. It's not that. You know, I average a good 7 to 9 these days, because, you know, my classes aren't early. I don't have to work early. I should be chilling. But I still woke up today with a sesame seed on my face, and I had a bowl of mixed vegetables for breakfast. So that is the energy that I can bring to the table today. And it's not helped.
Bowl of mixed vegetables?
Because I don't have anything else, Olivia.
I need
to go shopping. I haven't been shopping in like a month.
That sounds like a bad breakfast. I hate to be the guy that passes judgment on it, but...
Whoa, Olivia. Don't knock it till you try it.
Alright, but...
God, I had no idea that my life was in shambles. Thanks for being the one to point it out. Oh, hi, everybody.
Hey, I'm Olivia.
Hi, I'm Brooke.
Hey, we did the intros, so that's a step in a positive direction.
If this is your first time listening, this is probably kind of a weird energy to stumble in on.
Honestly, in terms of how we've opened episodes, this is probably one of the least worst ones.
That's fair, actually.
We did do an episode, like, right after I'd been dealing with my history group project, which we'll unpack on another episode, and I was just screaming.
It was amazing. That one was a weird day.
That was such a weird day.
That was the day when you, like, had the history thing, and then, like, I had just watched a video about a woman dying because of medical negligence and racism, and, like, it was just a bad time.
Yeah. In terms of openers, it was rough.
Yeah, we were, like, just angry, I think.
I think our sanity was hanging on by, like, a thin thread at that point.
Yeah. Which, we are so much better now, right? Right?
So today we're gonna be talking about the documentary Behind the Curve, which is a Netflix original documentary.
Can we just for a moment unpack how excellent that title is? It's so good. I'm so proud of them for seizing that opportunity. It was
it was really good, man. Yeah, it feels so good.
And nothing else in that documentary felt good, so balances out.
It was exhausting. So on that note, let's just cut right into it. You generally, in our review of movies, one of us is going to summarize. Brooke, would you like to summarize Behind the Curve? You don't have to do the nitty-gritty, because I'm sure we're going to unpack the details, but just overarching.
It's actually very difficult to do. It deep dives into the flat Earth movement, in case we haven't been clear about that. I don't think we actually ever said it. But,
that would be important.
Right, and it focuses on a few different people. I don't remember everybody's names, but I do remember that they pay particular attention to Mark Sargent, and a woman named Patricia Steer? It's Steer, right? Yeah.
Yeah, Steer. I only know that because of the nicknames they made of her.
It was so sad.
Yeah. We'll talk about that.
Yeah, and then there's a guy from Temecula who I'm not actually sure they even gave his name. Did they?
They probably did, but I just remember him as, like, Temecula dude, and he said the craziest shit in the entire movie.
I think, the worst one. He was definitely.
He was Hassan's favorite just because everything he said took so much time to, like, individually unpack.
And he said it all so fast.
Right? So, we have a big cast of characters.
Oh my god, we do. And like I said, I couldn't possibly rattle off all these names. And there were a bunch of, like, sort of side characters that they did mini profiles on, but the general idea was that we were following individuals who characterized themselves by their involvement in the Flat Earth movement, as it were. And then it was supplemented by astrophysicists and actual people who know what they're talking about.
My favorite people.
You know, the normal ones. So, the overarching message of the documentary, surprisingly, is not to call ridicule to these people, but rather to sort of point the finger back at us and say, hey, these people are like this, and you alienate them, which makes them more like this. And the only way that anyone's going to get rehabilitated is if you engage with them. I have thoughts and feelings about that, but we can get into it later, because I feel like we need to take this chronologically. I have notes that are pretty much just insane ramblings.
Holy shit.
Let me just open my notes.
Licks finger and flips manila folder open.
Pretty much. It's and I know we have like a way that we do this where one person summarizes and then we work our way down our questions, but there are too many just good noodles that we need to chew on.
Yes.
I think.
Then I will let you lead the conversation and react.
Jesus Christ. So I just first and foremost, I need the editor of this film to win so many awards.
Holy shit, yes, dude.
Because it's the first 5 minutes, not even 5 minutes of the film is just a clip with Mark Sargent and then the opening credits. And the dissonance between Mark Sargent just being so smug and sure of himself in the things that he says, and then just a smash cut to footage from like the fucking 50s of the Earth, and the announcer going, and the curvature of the Earth is clearly visible. It's so brilliant.
Yeah.
I love it.
There's so many other good like cuts in this movie. If we're gonna be focusing on the editing, my absolute hands down favorite part in the movie, and one of the questions like, what's your favorite part of the movie? And it's when Mark and Patricia go to the NASA Space Museum.
Yeah.
And they're in these flight simulators that show what the Earth looks like from space. And they make a comment like, wow, it's so crazy. You can see that everything is so like run down and like falling apart. And the editor does this like office style dramatic cut to like zoom in and enhance on the flight simulators and show that they're like literally brand new. And you're like, oh my god.
I thought, so this is not editing, it's actually camera work, which is also so excellent.
Yeah, camera work and editing all combined.
My favorite part in that section, I thought you were going to bring this up, is they sit down in what's supposed to be like a flight simulator, like a small scale one. It's not one where you like get in.
No.
And
it's like a seat.
Right,
Yeah.
so you sit down and Mark Sargent starts tapping the screen to try and get it to start, and he's like, come on, it's not even, this is broken, this is ridiculous, oh my god, I can't believe that we paid $30 to get in and everything is broken. And the camera whips to the side of this seat that he's in, and there's a big green start button sitting right next
and it's in perfect. That was the one. Is like one, it's run down, and you look at everything in perfect condition, and just like can't even operate a screen. The editing and the camera work. These people deserve the best of awards.
Oh, I can't imagine that the flat earther community is terribly pleased with the outcome of this film. But it's so beautiful.
Oh my god, it was so that was my favorite. Your favorite's the opening, but there's so many just gemstone moments.
Yes, the editing is so beautiful. It's
I love it.
but I have so many things about the beginning. There's a clip of a guy that says, "My children will have to pay for the lies NASA gives," and the first thing I screamed at the screen was, "You procreated?" Like, no! and my attitude has softened by the end.
Yes.
But oh my god, that first 5 minutes was
It's
just
so jarring.
I just stared mouth agape at the screen. I have so many things to say about the meal that Mark Sargent's mother serves him. Do you remember
Holy
what it
shit.
is?
Yeah. What was it? It was like chicken noodle soup.
Check.
And like warm applesauce, or was it
iced applesauce?
Yes, that's what it was. She said it was applesauce with ice, and she goes, it's his favorite meal, and he just defensively looks at the camera and he's like, yeah, maybe when I was a kid, and she just chuckles under her breath like, you're telling me it's not still your favorite meal?
The mother was so funny.
She was hilarious.
I kind of feel bad for her on a number of levels. One of them is that he's definitely manipulative of her and her care of him, and that becomes more and more clear over time. We're gonna take these out of order. I have a note about way later when they ask her, do you believe the things that your son believes? And she hesitates. And Mark Sargent looks utterly betrayed. Like, he shoots this look at her like, how dare you even question? And then he makes a comment, she answers, and it's of course very lukewarm. And he says to her, wow, that was good, and I didn't even coach you on that one.
I remember her answer too, as they say not to put you on the spot, but do you believe it? And she goes, I would like to see proof that the earth is flat, is essentially her. Yeah.
The last thing she said was, my hope is just that truth is brought to light. And that seems kind of veiled.
Yeah.
The whole thing is... I have so much to say just about Mark Sargent and...
Psychoanalytical profile.
Oh my God.
This turns into not a movie review, but just him.
Yeah, because he is... All of them were their own brand of just psychopathy, but like... I don't know how else to say it. They were pathological, all of them.
Yeah, 100%.
I think that Patricia is probably the least... I'm looking for my words here, but like, she had a moment that broke my heart.
Oh, was it the one in the car?
Yes! Oh my God. So, I think we should probably get into characterizing the characters first.
Yeah.
Mark Sargent was one of the first people who, he made this series of videos called Flat Earth Clues, and they blew up, and they were some of the first videos that, like, started to pick up steam on the internet. And I know that when he started, it was like 2006, so it was like the advent of YouTube. So he's been doing this forever, and so his name is sort of synonymous with the movement that is Flat Earth. But he took a lot of his ideas from a guy named Matt something. Yikes.
Matt something's a dickhead, so I don't even care to remember his name.
I don't feel bad. He's the worst. Also, his name, like, later became, like, math... It's like something like Progress Core or something. That's wrong, but...
He, like, what I will give credit to as far as Mark goes... Mark? Yes.
Yeah.
Mark. He never says that he started the Flat Earth movement.
Right.
He said he was one of the first people. People say, like, you started it, and he would say, no, I just, like, science started it, and I just pointed it out. Which I will just... give him credit where it's due, because the other dude, the dickhead, is like, I am the reason that this movement exists, and my expose on NASA is the reason that we're questioning globe Earth. And you're like,
it's
wow.
So much. I don't even have words to describe to you the pathological narcissism and just the God complex. But I will actually argue that Mark Sargent also has a pathological narcissism and God complex. It's just different. Like,
oh yeah, for sure.
He takes on this persona of a cult leader and just relishes it. He basks in the attention that this gets him. There are so many things throughout the documentary where he acts like he's a celebrity and even says that even though he doesn't consider himself one, that he takes pleasure in the fact that people, like, his words, deer in the headlights when they see him. Which is like, no one does that. That's not true.
Yeah, he also told these stories, which I really want to put into question. It's like, somebody goes up to him at a restaurant and they're like,
right.
"Are you Mark Sargent?" And he goes, yeah. And he says, and these are his exact words. He goes, "And no joke, he winks at me and says, 'That's my name too.'" And I'm just...
What kind of interaction is
No.
that? That didn't happen.
Did the entire restaurant get up and clap?
Right.
I don't think so.
Oh my god, he was reading letters about, like, from, like, flat earthers who couldn't make it to this conference that they end up going to. And one of the letters is like, "My child was in their first grade classroom, and the teacher was saying things about how the earth is round and travels around the sun, and a third of the room said, 'No, it doesn't.'" And I'm like, "No, they didn't! You're a liar!" And then the whole room clapped. Like, what the fuck? Oh my god, they're like 8! They're 8 years old. There's no way.
Yeah, no, 100%. If you said that in a normal class, you would be relentlessly bullied. Right. So I don't think that happened, but that's just me. I can't prove or deny that it happened, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say it probably didn't happen.
Right. And I think the most important character trait of Mark Sargent is that he wears nothing but khaki shorts. That's all he wears.
Is that underlined in your notes?
It says, verbatim, "Mark wears khaki shorts, lol."
Yeah,
Man,
100%.
He's something else. And then we have Patricia, who is very pretty. And I don't know
You
what...
bring back Bree's compliments on movies, like, what's your favorite part of the movie? This one actor is very pretty.
Yeah. And I only say that because I was just startled constantly by her amazing sense of style and, like, her gorgeous eyes. And I was just like, wow, this person... And she has an amazing voice for radio.
Yes. Oh my god. Her enunciation is incredible.
I aspire to sound like that someday when I don't sound like a 12-year-old. But,
now, if I can just say my absolute favorite moment with Patricia, and I had to pause the movie because I witnessed a murder.
Oh god.
It was when Mark was making the joke, yeah, people all the time comment, they're like, "Ha ha ha, oh my god, you guys are like such a couple," and like, that's not what it is. She goes, "Ha ha, yeah, I know, a couple of besties," and I screamed and went, "I just witnessed a murder. Oh my god."
I have a note on that. It's just it's like 5 to 10 seconds of them. They read the question. Patricia goes, "No." And then Mark goes, "Well," and I went, ooh.
Yeah, it was the most uncomfortable moment because she's just sincerely like, "No, we're a couple of friends," and he's like, "Woof," and like the wind gets knocked out of him. They fucking go on dates, and she's like, "Yeah, we're just really good friends," and he's like, "Yep."
And it's weird because she seems like she was into it at one point. And now she's just like, I'm just living my life. And Mark is so in love with her. Like, he is a full-body boner whenever they're in the same room. It's insane.
Yeah, like, what was it? She was explaining, like, just, like, very calmly what her life was like, and she, when she went, yeah, I was gonna move to Mark's area because he was one of my closest friends, and then I got into a relationship, and, I ignored red flags that I shouldn't have ignored. She's being personal and deep, and Mark's description of the same series of events was, yeah, she's gonna move down here, but, stuff happened, and it just never worked out, and I'm like, yeesh.
Yeah, it's big yikes, and he was so angry about the fact that she moved out of the country and then moved back with her cats, Olivia.
Yeah, moving a cat is expensive.
Just get new cats. Oh my god.
That was insane. The whole thing that literally it knocked the wind out of me in the
So, we have those two. Patricia is so interesting because she had this very singular experience where she got involved in the Flat Earth movement. She runs YouTube shows and I guess podcasts. I guess they would be podcasts.
Yeah.
And over time, she has become notorious, in my opinion, simply because she's pretty.
Yes.
For being, like, the flat earth harlot. They had nicknames for her.
That is such an apt description.
Because it's just how they would refer to her. Like, people were threatened by the fact that she's gorgeous and also speaks about this topic. And so the response in turn was to attack her. And people were coming up with their own conspiracy theories about how she's an operative of the CIA and how...
Which also, I want to just take a moment to talk about the fucking insanity in their yarn linking.
It's crazy.
She describes it, she says, I never thought that my birth name, Patricia, would be used to, describe me as an agent because the last 3 letters are CIA. As if the government is that stupid, are her words. And then her last name is Steer, and she said her last name is Steer because she's steering men into the flat earth movement. And I'm like, what a fucking reach.
It's amazing. The artistry of that is just... And she outlines this chronology where she has gone on the record and tried to prove her identity to people by posting her birth certificate online and like showing family photos and like, see, here I am. I was a child. These are my siblings. These are my parents. One of the weirder ones, they have this fixation on like transgender people.
Yes.
And we can get a little deeper into that later, but one of the allegations was that she was trans and she was like, no, I am not. Here's my birth certificate. And their response was, well, if you work for the CIA, then they can fake that.
Which is just such a, like, fucking moving the goalpost all the time. It's such that's the whole movie, too, is like, you will never be able to do X, does X. Okay, well, that could be faked. And it's like, well, then what proof are you looking for?
They're not.
I mean, that is the point, right? Is like, they argue, they're like, if there was the evidence, and you get shown the evidence, and they're like, well, it was faked, which is such a cop-out.
Right, so Patricia has this moment, which was what we were talking about later, where she is outlining this experience that she had, and she actually organically makes the connection that she possibly is doing the same thing that these people did to her about the Flat Earth movement. She says it herself. And then she backtracks and goes, no, because I know I'm right.
Yeah, it's like, I remember the whole phrasing was, sometimes I wonder, like, there must be some degree of, conspiracy, like, conspiratorial, like, behavior where you just try to make these links that aren't there. And sometimes I wonder if I'm like that and I do things like that, but I know I don't. God. She, like, immediately goes, but I know I don't. Because, like, I think for her that is a really, really unsettling thought. And the only response that she can have is, no, but I'm not.
Right,
because...
it couldn't possibly be because I only trust myself.
Yeah.
Which she says.
Which is so sad.
Yeah, they ask her, like, is there anyone you trust when it comes to facts? And she goes, myself. That's it.
Oh my God. That interview, she also said, is there anything like you'd need for proof? And she, I swear to you, I swear to God, said she would only believe the Boston bombing actually happened if she was physically there and
if
Hassan
her leg
lost
got
his
blown
mind.
Off. Yeah, like, I just, my God, holy shit. What kind of attitude is that? I ask that question. I know what kind of attitude it is. It's just a fundamental distrust of authority and, like, I don't know. I want to say special snowflake syndrome, where it's like, I'm the only one who can be trusted because I'm the center of my own narrative.
Yeah.
Holy shit, though. How do you live like that?
And there's the line, like, right after that, she said, I would only believe the Boston bombing if I was actually there. I would only believe that planes went into the building if I was there, referring to 9/11, and then immediately goes, but I know they didn't. And you're like, Patricia.
What the fuck, Patricia?
It reminds me of a Father John Misty lyric where he is describing one of his ex-girlfriends that he fucking despises, and he says she goes off on tangents describing the cosmos of which she's the center of. And
God.
And I'm like, that's it. That's the whole fucking thing, isn't it?
That's all it is. It's just crazy. So that's Patricia, who is such a complicated character.
Before we go into more recurring ones, I want to briefly talk about Temecula Man.
That was the next one. Temecula Man was my next one, because...
He isn't there for a long time.
But when he's there...
But the things he says, again, the editing, Brooke has praised the editing. There's this series of smash cuts between Mark, Patricia, and Temecula Man, and I believe one other person, of, like, things that they believe. And my absolute favorite fucking line is it jumps from flat Earth to Patricia explaining that 9/11 isn't real to Temecula Man explaining that the media is pushing the trans agenda to, quote,
amazing.
Turn boys to girls and girls to boys or something like that. And I had to pause the movie and went, what the fuck does this have to do with the flat...
The intersection of flat earthers and bigotry is insane to me. Like, it's like pretty much all of them. Everybody we saw, anyway. Like, there's a scene where Mark Sargent is walking around during the eclipse, and he's wearing a Blue Lives Matter hat, and I was like, fucking of course. Of course. Yeah. Like,
you'd think if these people are so vehemently against authority, they would... just, like, stereotypically go for the Black Lives Matter movement, just because that's very anti-authoritarian, but I think there is some linkage of, like, racism in there that fundamentally doesn't connect with that, so they'd rather support... And this isn't me saying which side is right or wrong, this is just, like, you would think logic train-wise...
Right.
that it would go towards the Black Lives Matter movement, but there has to be some kind of, like, resentment towards, like, left-leaning policies for them to align with people that are literally extensions of the government that they despise.
I know,
like, I don't...
it's crazy.
Like, it just doesn't line up.
It does not at all. And did you notice that, like, there were 2 people of color that were flat earthers, like, period?
Yep.
Like...
Because no matter if you believe it or not, as soon as you, like, they're like, yeah, Blue Lives Matter, and they're like, huh? And they're like, yeah, they're pushing the agenda of, like, this, and it's again, I want to understand the reasoning, and it just doesn't line up.
It doesn't.
You know? So that's Temecula Man.
And one of my favorite parts with him, I actually have 2. There's a scene where they go to this conference, and he's, like, just chatting with people. Temecula Man is just chatting with people, and you overhear just the tail end of what he's saying. And he goes, yeah, I'm on a 30-day block from Facebook. And I just lost my mind. Like,
everything he says is just so uniquely beautiful. It's like a mosaic.
Also, there's a really good one where he's rambling about how everybody who's a flat earther is either 1, very successful, or 2, just doing their own thing, man. And he says, I don't know, there's, like, this stereotype that, like, flat earthers are losers and they live with their mom in their mom's house in the basement, and I don't know about you guys, but I've never met a single one who lives with their parent. And it cuts to fucking Mark, who lives in his mother's basement. It is so beautiful.
Oh, the editing. Oh,
man.
I do remember Temecula Man walks up to a man in a in a convertible Mercedes or BMW or something.
It's horrifying.
And he just goes, hey. And he's like,
Hi.
Hi?
Yeah.
And he's like, would you like to join the Flat Earth movement? No.
Oh my god.
Thank you.
Oh my god.
And he goes, I am actually, I created the largest Facebook anti-globe group ever. Looks at camera and smiles. And I'm like, this unreal.
Interaction, I just want to unpack for a minute.
Yeah.
Because it blew my mind. He walks up to the car, unsolicited.
Yeah.
And goes, did you know that the Earth is flat? No hello, no my name is, he just sticks his head over the top of the window and says, did you know that the Earth is flat? Olivia, I have one question for you. What the fuck would you do?
I mean, I'm in a convertible, so I can't. If I had my window down in my shitty Ford Focus, I'd roll the window up and ignore him. But I'm in a convertible in this scenario.
With the top down, so yeah.
And so I guess I'd be like,
let me just put this top up really slowly.
I would back out. I would just leave. I don't know how I'd react to that. Because if I say no, I don't believe that.
Yes.
Then he yells at me for being influenced by the government. But if I say, oh yeah, for sure, then he talks to me about it. I can't win.
There's no winning. And also, this person was in the passenger seat. And they were, like, waiting for the driver, so they couldn't have just, like, hopped into the driver's seat and gotten away. They were a hostage in this situation. It was so bad.
Yes.
Oh, my God. And he, like, he does exactly what you said, this whole weird oratory about how he's got the largest Facebook group of flat earthers, and as he's walking away, he looks at the camera and goes, and that's how you do it.
And there was zero success in that. The man was just waiting for his Starbucks and left.
How you do what?
Yeah, it was wild.
Oh,
Temecula Man was wild. Who else do we got on our cast of characters?
Wait,
we have the hot
scientist. He also thinks that they made up dinosaurs.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. And that interaction, he goes, you know, like, the government, like, made up dinosaurs, and the cameraman goes, why would they do that? And he, like, stumbles because he doesn't have an answer and goes, you know, to, like, perpetuate the 6 million year old Earth theory. And I'm like, did you make that up right now? Because the way you said that sentence makes me feel as if you just made that up right now.
Also, there's that scene where he, like, wants to read a thing to the cameraman while he's driving, and he literally, I was so anxious during the scene, he picks up a book from his back seat, opens it, turns to the page he's looking for, and then just starts reading, like, from the book.
While driving,
his eyes don't look at the road for, like, 3 solid minutes. And I was gonna have a fucking heart attack. It was insane.
So I feel like our analysis of Temecula Man is a really good representation of the most wild extremist part of this movement. Because it was, I don't want to say they're all like this, but I'm gonna tell you, man, Temecula Man was really off-putting.
Yeah,
so,
he like, made me scared, I think.
Yeah,
of this whole 100%. Thing, and obviously not everybody was like this, but now I think we can probably move into the logical fallacies of the whole thing, because this was the largest part, I think. This was a separate character in the movie, like...
And we're not, like, I don't intend to go in debunking it, because that's a whole nother fucking episode.
Well, we don't have to, because they did it themselves.
Yes. I have some comments on the experiments they ran when we get to it, so let's just like begin to dissect their logic for a little bit.
So, yeah. Sorry.
Well, the one that I want to talk about first and foremost that blows my fucking mind is this idea: how could we be orbiting the sun and going faster than a bullet? Which, by the way, we're going way fucking faster than a bullet, but sure.
I mean, he's technically right. Faster than a bullet is correct.
All right. And then says, why don't we experience that? My immediate answer is, if you're going 90 on the freeway, you do not feel like you're going 90 on the freeway because you're going the speed of the car.
One of the scientists that they interviewed was like, I don't even have time for this, but let me just put it in words that maybe they'll understand. And gives that exact example and says, if I throw a ball in a moving car, where is it gonna go? It's gonna go back in my hand. It's not gonna fly to the back windshield.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh shit, yeah, that's a very easy way of saying you're a fucking moron.
Yeah, that was a really funny one. That was insane to me.
Oh god.
What was the other ones?
Something that I just thought was crazy, which is reductive. Saying crazy is just reductive of everything that we experienced. But there's this part during the conference where everybody's sort of debating what flat earth model they subscribe to, and apparently, surprise, surprise, there's infighting in the flat earth community.
No!
So some people subscribe to it being a disc with a dome on top of it, and that's, like, projecting what we see in the night sky. And some people believe that it's just infinite, flat Earth, and that, like, past the wall of ice, there are other continents that we can't get to. Some people believe other things. We're not gonna get into all of them.
They're so, like, I can't even begin. There was a joke where they made Taurus Earth, which looks like a donut.
Oh my god.
With a hole through the center as, like, a joke. And then there were people that actually came up with reasoning why the Earth is in the shape of a donut.
Yeah.
And I just can't do it.
There's one that's like the shape of like an infinity sign. That's one that people believe in. I don't know I can't explain that one because I can't. So
yeah.
there are just a bunch of different, like, factions within this community. And one of the things that blew my mind is that while people were talking about the dome theory, which is the one that generally most of the people that we focused on believed in.
Yeah.
One of the dudes that was talking about it was like, well, I mean, you can't really subscribe to the dome theory because once you've got this enclosed space with, like an enclosure around it, then you're in a confinement model, and that's the same as the globe. And I just was like, what is this about, really? Because it's not about finding quote-unquote truth, obviously, but, like, he was turned off by this theory because it's a confinement model? What does that even mean? Like, this is being informed by his feelings about it. He's like, that's too close to the globe, so I don't believe it. Like, what is that? What does that mean? Oh, God. Yeah,
my favorite, like, thread of this science thing was, it all begins with, let's start with the compass. Do you remember the compass part? So he shows a gyroscope and says, this is what they use inside of a compass. And it directs you to true north. Now, the globe theory requires that you agree that the Earth is on a 15% tilt, which for some reason they refuse to accept. Cannot explain why, but they refuse to.
Yep.
So the most precise compass in the world is a laser gyroscope compass, which, if I recall correctly, is like $20,000.
$20,000.
Right.
They spent their money.
They bought it. They bought the gyroscope, right?
They bought it.
$20,000 gyroscope. They ran it, and it showed data, and the way you can interpret the data is that the Earth is at a 15% tilt. So they hated that.
So this is... Okay, I want to really nail down something here. When they did the experiment, the guy who bought the gyroscope goes, this is going to prove once and for all whether or not globe Earth exists. Those were his words.
Yeah.
They run it, they find out that there's a tilt, and he goes, and I quote, well, that's a problem.
Yes. Yes, and the scientists talk about, science is not about proving that you're right, it's attempting to prove that you're wrong, because then you learn more about whatever you're studying, right? And so, this is why Hassan is like, he's laughing so hard at this part, because right now he's literally doing research in, like, acoustics and using lasers.
Yeah.
And so, like, this whole segment, I thought his kidney was going to explode, because he can't stop laughing. They go, well, you see, there's energies that come from the sky as a result of the firmament, which is probably influencing the readings on this laser gyroscope. So what we're going to do is we put it in an anti-energy containment unit to prevent the energies from, like, affecting the laser, which also... I can't. Like, it gives the exact same fucking readings that prove that it's at a 15% tilt. Right? And he goes, well, I don't like this. and his solution is to encase the laser gyroscope in solid bismuth.
Why?
To prevent the energies from influencing it. And my question is, like, when is it enough?
Right, where does it end? It ends, of course, when they prove their theory right. Like, that's...
Right?
That's where it ends, and it's so frustrating. And oh man, I've got so much to say about that. But I think we have more... I think we have one more experiment.
Oh my god. And this one... I'm getting my blood pressure is fucking rising.
Yes.
Let's just say this experiment began with this man is introduced and it says his name, don't remember his name, I'm gonna call him Laser Guy. And his title in the Earth movement is The Experimenter.
Ugh.
And Hassan said that is my new title from here on out on my resume. What do? I experiment. Favorite quote from this man is, what I've learned from doing experiments to prove the flat earth theory is that experiments are very hard.
Dude, yeah, the next thing he says in that line is, I didn't give enough credit to people who do experiments, and I screamed at the TV, you mean scientists?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, and he takes this laser, a super powered high energy laser, points it directly at the freeway to show how far it goes.
Like, that's illegal for sure.
So then they run the experiment. And they run it so that the laser will go directly across several miles of land to prove that there's no curvature of the Earth. And they run it again and again for 2 hours, and it keeps not hitting the board on the other side because, there's curvature in the Earth. And they're looking at the readings, and at the end of the movie, he looks at all of his data, and it's conclusive that the laser beam is moving exactly I think it's 28 feet above the point that he is, projecting, because the Earth is curved. And it cuts to, a segment of text that says that people think that it was hitting bushes, which is why it didn't reach the screen. And he's going to keep experimenting to prove that the Earth is flat. And I'm like, this is so conclusive that the Earth is curved.
It's all you can get. This is it. That's the proof. There it is. It's so funny when the documentarian actually tells a physicist this experiment that they're gonna run, and you can see the guy doing the mental calculations.
Yeah.
And he goes, yeah, that's gonna be a problem for them.
Also, he thinks about it and he does the math, and he goes, yeah, that's gonna be really difficult. Let me think about it. And he, thinks about how difficult that experiment is going to be. And he's like, yeah, it's gonna be really difficult, because what Hassan pointed out is I think they're doing it, near the beach.
Right. And
the amount of humidity in the air and the amount of diffraction in the light is not going to give you a clear laser. It's going to give you, a big circle at the end of it.
Yeah. And they were that was the first iteration of the experiment, is they tried to shoot this laser right on the shoreline, and it kept coming out a 15-foot diameter circle.
Yeah.
And they were like, this is not going to work. We can't get a reading on this. And he was like, this isn't what it's supposed to be. I don't know what's happening. And so they had to come back again once they had figured out what the hell to do.
Yeah.
Oh, it was crazy.
It was insanity. That whole segment was hysterical. That and the compass thing is just hysterical.
And those are the two, biggest indicators of, dude, you're just wrong.
Yeah.
I don't have any words for this, because this is the proof that nothing you can say is gonna get flat earthers to reconsider their position, because not even their own data makes them reconsider their own position. They have to be right.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
God. And, also, at this point, it's a microcosm, right? They have this community, as they call it, where they have, flat earth royalty. One of the documentarians asks Mark Sargent, do you consider yourself the flat earth mayor? And he just sort of smirks. He doesn't answer, but he just, smirks. And, the answer is yes, of course he does. Yeah. That's the appeal, is that now you have this group of people who, for whatever reason, didn't fit in with society, which is fine, and then had to figure out a way to make themselves feel important, and they chose flat earth theorizing. And they did it. They managed to make this thing for themselves, and they will never give it up, because that would mean taking them out of this thing where they mean something and putting them back into the world that told them that they didn't matter.
Oh, took the words out of my mouth. That was the part that kept me up at night. Like, towards the end of the movie, I couldn't even, like, look at the screen because I was just so... It was a combination of rage at the fact that they were refusing to acknowledge science, but also just this sadness of, like...
Yeah,
the one thing that really affected me about Mark Sargent, and now I've watched the documentary twice now, because I watched it the first time kind of in passing, and then I said, hey, we should do it for this minisode. And on the second runaround, I could not feel anything but bad for Mark Sargent.
Yeah.
Solely because the fact now that I was kind of reanalyzing his behavior, I would say a good 80% of his passion about the flat earth movement comes from the inclusivity of the flat earth movement.
Right. Yeah.
Like, all he would talk about is, like, look at how many hits we have, look at how many people are in this group, look at how many license plates there are, like, in this giddy, excited manner. It wasn't coming from, like, wow, look at how right we are. It's just so happy that people are together. And I was like...
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh.
There's a part where they show a side-by-side of, like, a meetup between the flat earthers and then a meetup of, like, scientists at, I don't remember what college, but the one that they were focusing on. And the difference is startling because these researchers are sharing ideas and they're giving talks about science, first of all, and then, like, also how they can be more inclusive in the scientific community. And then you switch back to the flat earthers, and all they're doing is fawning over the celebrity of Mark Sargent and the other people that they recognize. It's just a meet and greet. That's all it is. There's no exchange of ideas. It's all very much this, oh, thank God I have this community because I didn't have anything before I found it.
Yeah.
And
it's very culty.
Yeah.
And that was, I think this podcast has ruined hating people for me.
Which is good, I think.
Yeah, because I got into an argument with someone pretty recently where she had, she'd brought up the Behind the Curve, and I hadn't watched it yet, but my kind of opinion on them is, like, just gut instinct. This seems very culty, and it seems like they just, like, it's hard to admit that you're wrong.
Right.
And she vehemently denied that was the issue. I said, it's very difficult for people to admit they're wrong. Like, even me, if I, like, get a date wrong.
Yeah.
And, like, somebody Googles it and they show it at me, they're like, no, it's a different date. My brain is like, don't admit it, don't admit it, don't admit it, don't admit it. I'm like, that's fucking stupid. Just admit it was 1948,
it's
right? Like,
hard.
that's a non-issue.
Right.
But imagine admitting that you were wrong for an entire period of your life that you were passionate about in a community that you still enjoyed, and then have to say, by the way, the whole time I was wrong. And then the people are just going to shame you for it. They're like, do you remember when you believed in flat earth? Ha 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 ha.
Yeah.
And then it's like
at that point it's easier to demolish your relationships in the name of this thing.
Yeah.
Because if you ever backtrack, you'd never hear the end of it.
Yeah. It would constantly be you remember that period of your life, this, that, and the other. There was a segment in the movie where they interviewed people in brief about them abandoning people in their life. There was a woman that was like, she's like, I had a boyfriend and I shared with him my thoughts and he didn't agree with me, and, we stopped talking. And I'm like, oh, and some other dude's like, yeah, members of my family have stopped talking to me. They just think the conspiracy is too much. Mark Sargent literally just has that just has Patricia and his mother.
Yeah.
And Patricia lives somewhere else.
Yeah, she's, like, states away.
So
far.
It's one of those things where, like, if you put yourself head first into the flat earth movement, there are people there willing to, like, catch you with a parachute and bring you in.
Right.
If you are leaning out, it's just people surrounding you ready to ridicule you. Like, there's no, like, cool, I'll get out and things will be okay again. So you just are kind of forced to double down on whatever clearly unsubstantiated beliefs, because nobody wants to be wrong and nobody wants to be alone.
Yeah.
Like, just fundamental human nature. Which I think has come a lot from this podcast, at least for me, because I talk about the first series we have all the time. The first and second series had a profound impact on me because I was able to be compassionate towards people that are doing stupid and or terrible things because the only thought in the back of my mind is how much is this person suffering where they feel that they have to do this, you know?
Yeah, and obviously there are exceptions to the rule.
Oh, 100%.
And, like,
yeah, like when it causes
Matt
physical
guy,
harm.
right.
Yeah.
The Matt guy, I feel like, and Temecula guy are the fringe exceptions to this rule of, like, oh, they're suffering.
Yeah.
And, like, even they are probably suffering, but we are talking about people now who are using their illusions of grandeur to hurt people and, like, try and tear apart their lives. That's not admissible.
Not cool.
You can't excuse that.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you have people like Mark Sargent, who are just insufferable. The people I was watching this movie with, Kat, hi, she said that Mark Sargent gave off really big Michael Scott energy, and I have to agree.
Yeah, like, he was just, like, this, like, I don't want to say unlovable. I just, like, this annoying goofball.
He's so annoying.
Yeah, and you're like...
he said this thing where he's talking about all the people who are, like, secretly flat earthers, and he's like, you know that line from Spectre? We've got people everywhere. And I was like, dude, you're not a secret agent. Chill out.
Oh, what was it? There was a guy working at, like, Boston newspaper or something, and Mark Sargent said he's secretly he's secretly one of us. Jump cuts to the guy, to the reporter, and the reporter laughs and goes, "No, I'm not a flat earther."
All these scientists and, like, an astronaut that they interviewed, they're talking about these allegations that they're working for the government and that they're being paid off. And this astronaut, I love him. He goes, "Yeah, I went to space, and you know what I made? I made $5 an hour extra. That's what I made."
There was a researcher at Caltech who, by the way, so pretty.
Oh my god, I said that I was gay for her the second she came on the screen. I was just like,
she's so pretty.
She's so pretty. That's not what this is about.
But I'm
all
just
sexists,
saying,
but she is definitely very pretty.
She's so pretty, and she said she said, like, you know, and what the line is if you believe that the Earth is flat, that means the data that we have must be wrong, and if the data is wrong, then it must be wrong for a reason, and the only reason you can think of is a conspiracy. Like, it just, like, it follows. So that's where the conspiracy comes in.
Yeah,
but she also says, man, I wish I lived in a conspiracy. I wish I was working for the government and got paid off for, like, hiding my research. But I'm not. It's
so much, man. You do end up coming away from it feeling bad because these people were, and they do sort of really just focus in on this point. These are people who are lost by society, and then in return, when they voice these alternative beliefs, were ridiculed, and for reasons that I suppose we can understand. We are sitting here talking about these people and ridiculing what they believe because it's false.
Insane.
But at the same time, these people are being met with, you know, what borders on verbal abuse and constant mental strain by being just opposed to science.
Yeah.
And that's contrary to rehabilitation. It's not, at that point, you're not trying to help that person, you're just getting off on being smarter than them. And and one of the researchers that they interviewed said this, it's not a problem of smarter or dumber or more or less educated, it is an issue of what they were educated into believing. And a lot of these people
I agree.
were educated to have just an inherent problem with authority, and so they won't believe anything that someone says who's on TV, or someone with a badge, or a politician. They won't believe any of it. And then, of course, following that, anybody who spews the same belief they must be evil. They must be working for the dark side, right? And so they have this resistance to learning anything else. And so I think what the scientists, which I love this, And also the documentary wants us to take away is we need to engage with these people, and the kindness that we show them is the only way that we're going to get them to not believe ultimately kind of harmful things like the Flat Earth movement and anti-vaxxers, etc., which is sort of what we talked about with Ross. And this is a thing that we've been talking about forever with the cults and with groupthink, that, like, kindness is the only thing that breaks us out of this, like with the gal in Westboro Baptist Church who reformed, and, like, the only reason that happened is because someone was nice to her. However...
Which is so tough.
Right, but the problem with it is that we witnessed for an hour and 45 minutes what happens when people try to tell them that they're wrong. And, like, you can only engage with these people for so long before the smugness and the, like, well, you're just an idiot because you're a sheep who believes the government. Like, how long can you sit in that environment before you're just like, fine, okay?
Yeah, and I think a big issue is you have to get to those people before they're in too deep, because I think once you've been in there for a couple years, you're very used to people telling you you're stupid.
Right.
And it's like Teflon, unfortunately.
I know,
Which is really, it's tough because it means you have to engage, and I don't have the patience for it, I'll be honest.
Yeah,
like, if I were in a room... if I were in a room with someone and they started trying to explain to me the laser experiment, I'd go easily, well, yeah, if you think about it, due to the curvature of the Earth, it's going to be at a slight incline. Like, that's just going to be what it is. It's basic physics.
Right.
There's only so much I can argue. I've gotten into arguments with people about medicine and food science and cancer, and I reach my wall pretty quickly because it's very apparent that once you start giving evidence that they're unfamiliar with, they will lock down on, well, none of it's true because it's faked, or you're just being conditioned by this group of people. I've actually been told to my face, you're being brainwashed by the pharmaceutical industry because they ran out of points. So it's one of those things where, one, I very much agree, how much are you willing to tolerate to have these discussions? But also, there's only so much you can do before it'll be very apparent in the conversation that they've run out of arguments and reasoning, and the only thing that they can resort to feel comfortable and not feel dumb is, well, this is fake, and you're being brainwashed,
right.
So everything, which means everything you're telling me is patently untrue. So, it's tricky, and I don't have a solution.
Nope.
And I understand the arguments of the documentarians, and I think, yes, effectively, that would work. But even with the Westboro Baptist Church girl, it took months of arguing by this seriously angel of a human being that's willing to withstand that amount of bigotry and racism and sexism.
Yeah.
And I don't think everybody can do that, but I think the preventative measures are probably going to be more effective than getting them out of there. Getting people out of any cult mentality is nearly impossible.
I know. Yeah, it's just... Speaking of, like, getting them early...
Yeah.
The 12-year-old broke my soul.
Oh, no. You gotta do that to me, Brooke? You gotta bring up the 12-year-old? Really?
Olivia, it's always the fucking kids. Olivia, it's always the kids.
It's always the kids.
God, I just... So, a little background for the people who didn't watch the movie. You should have, though. Come on. They are at this conference, like I've said, and they're taking questions from the audience, and this kid walks up, and he's been brought to the conference by his parents, and he asks... I don't remember exactly what his question was, but he asks Mark Sargent a question, and you come to find out that he's 12 years old. And my heart weeps, because there's... What do you do? What happens then? He's 12. I'm speechless because, like, what are the options? He goes to school and says he's a flat earther, and then he gets mercilessly bullied by the other 12-year-olds because children are evil. And then, like, what happens then? Or
which then just double downs on the, like, what I said in the Westboro Baptist Church is they'd go to school and they'd say these things and get relentlessly bullied, and then they have no agency, so they go to their parents and they go, why am I being bullied for saying, quote, the truth? And your parents say, well, that's because they're all brainwashed and they don't know what they're talking about. And don't worry, you're right, they're just dumb. And they, in their 12-year-old minds, go, perfect, that means I am right and they're just lesser than me. And just solidifies the fact that you can't trust anyone. And also this feeling of nobody likes me, and if I ever leave, nobody is going to like me other than the people in this group, which is exactly how they felt in the Westboro Baptist Church. The girls said it. They said, we have no friends. And, like, deep down, you know, well, if people don't like me now, they're definitely not going to like me when I have nobody else.
Yeah, it's...
This has been a roller coaster of feelings, hasn't it?
Sure has, and that's the point. Yeah.
Which is, I'm so happy that we've done all of these episodes, because there's a philosopher where they asked him, as a teacher, how are you able to keep your patience with unruly students? He was, I don't know, an elementary school teacher. And his argument was, the way that I lessen my annoyance with other people is I imagine what they must be suffering through, and I can't hate them because I just feel bad. And I never really got that, because for me, I could be like, yeah, they're suffering, but fuck them. But these are those people where you're like, still fuck them for their homophobia and transphobia and clear racism. But I feel bad for them, and I feel that it's almost impossible for them to get out, especially if they've become the celebrities and they have nobody else.
Right, yeah. There's just there's no chance for them to get out. And I think the last thing that I want to say is an experience that we had. Christian and I were watching this with Kat, and there's a scene where Mark Sargent is walking towards a giant globe. I don't remember where exactly he was on the globe, but he was walking towards this giant globe during the eclipse, and he starts, like, orating, and he's like, ladies and gentlemen, gather round, and Christian, without missing a fucking beat, goes, gather flat. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I think that's our show.
Oh, thank you so much for joining us. We love you being here. If you could give us a review on iTunes, that would be very, very, very much appreciated. It does nothing for us. It's really just the algorithms. It gets us recommended.
Oh, I wouldn't
if you would
say
like to
it does plenty
get us
for
recommended.
my ego. But
we'll read them. We read them anyway. But the point is, we want people to listen to us and enjoy the podcast. Share it with your friends.
Hell yeah, that's the best form of advertising.
Get them wrapped into this.
Yes.
We're on social media at TTKMeUp on both Instagram and Twitter. We have a website, ttkmeup.com.
We do.
Which has a link to our Patreon and merch and little infos about ourselves.
Yes, and we love interacting with you guys. And we got a tweet the other day we actually got memed about, which I think is the best thing ever. But I do want to just say to you, my friend, at Professor, it's just Prof. Scotty the Great, do not ever say that you're unremarkable, because you are not.
You're wonderful.
You're wonderful, being. And you made our day with that tweet you made about us. And,
yeah, 100%.
Hey, if you want to guest host, who knows what's gonna happen? Who knows, man?
See? I don't know. And a shout out, if you've heard our new intro, it's so good.
So good.
And that's good thanks to our friend Nick Kendig.
Thank you, Nick.
We'll tag him in something, because I don't have his handle on me. But it's incredible. It's better than anything I could have thought it would be, and I love it. And we got rid of Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Bye.
Fuck that. And it's so much better than it ever was. I made it on GarageBand, and now it's like professional with like real instruments.
Gorgeous.
And I think that's all of our thanks. We love you all so much.
We do so much.
Interact with us.
Great.
Retweet my memes, please. Because I've been making some fire memes
Olivia,
about...
it's not the same if you have to ask for it.
They're really good.
They are
We're
really
using
good.
our Twitter all the time now, and I'm posting shit all the time. And I don't know, if I make a meme about Nike enslaving the global south, I would like it to be retweeted.
No, that's fair.
All right?
You know what? That's fair.
Yeah. I think that's it. I love you all. Thank you so much. Deuces.
Bye.
Hello, friends. We are the Ladies of Strange. I'm Ashley.
I'm Tiffany.
And I'm Rebecca.
Have you ever wondered if Jenny's head really did fall off when they removed the green ribbon?
Or if aliens are hiding in the tails of comets waiting to take us away?
Or if there's any scientific basis to the Ouija board?
Well, then don't risk your search history and join us each Thursday as we discuss
The history, mystery, and theory.
Of all things questionable, odd, and eerie.
New episodes are released every Thursday. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. More information about the show, including show notes and links to our social media, can be found on our website, theladiesestrange.com.
Keep it strange, lovelies.